In this era of grave spiritual crisis, it is not enough to simply know about your Catholic faith. That is why we need a Catholic toolbox to equip us with the practical skills necessary to live our Catholic faith to reach our ultimate goal, which is heaven for all eternity. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for the Catholic Toolbox as we hand you the tools to go forth, live the faith, and change our modern world today. Live on the Voice of Charity. And welcome back to another week on the Catholic Toolbox, the Art of Practical Catholicism. I'm your host and founder, George Manassa, here as we equip you with practical tools to live your faith in our modern world of today. And I welcome everybody back for 2024. It's going to be an exciting year, and I really am excited for this year. So welcome back to the house, my wife, Akita Manassa.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. I feel like
it's going to be an exciting year.
I was the Omega to the 2023 and now I'm the Alpha.
Yes. So we ended the year with you and we started the year with you. So you can be the Alpha and the Omega.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So the Alpha and the Omega. I was actually thinking that on my way here.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. The Alpha.
Because I just thought of it right now.
Yeah, I thought of it
and I didn't tell you
on the way here. So we're starting the year and we're ending the year.
Yes.
In the same light.
Yes.
With
very
your wisdom.
Good. Oh.
With your wisdom.
Thank you.
What are we talking about today?
What
are we starting the year off
We're with? Talking about, look, I mean, we're
starting the year off strong.
We've just gotten back. We've started the year off. I went back to work.
Big shout out to John, by the way.
Maybe
behind the scenes.
Yes, that's right. Thank you to John for making everything happen.
Great work, John.
Yes, but
it doesn't get acknowledged, so okay. I'd like to acknowledge John.
Yes. So we had some time off over the break. We did take a break, which was good. So the Catholic Toolbox took a bit of a break, but was also very busy overseas as well.
Welcome back, John.
So what did the Catholic Toolbox get up to when we were overseas?
I think we went to Japan. And then the Philippines.
Yes, but you did meet some new friends in the Philippines as well. Exactly,
we met with EWTN Asia Pacific. And
shout out to the EWTN.
Big shout out to EWTN
Asia Pacific team. So it was very nice to spend time with you all. It was very nice to just get to know everybody and just relax a little bit. Absolutely,
in their Manila office, they are based in Asia Pacific for covering the entire Asia Pacific. Based in the Manila office. So big shout out to all of you and the great work that you do. Important partners of the Catholic Toolbox.
Yeah. And they do such great work. They support so many
apostolates here.
They support so many nations around the world for EWTN.
Exactly. So. But in the Asia Pacific
they're amazing.
We are great partners with the Asia Pacific team.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot more partnership and growth with them this year to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that was Manila.
Yeah, so that was
very
Manila.
Hot weather in Manila.
Yeah, very muggy. It was pretty much the same as Sydney. So, like today's very wonderful muggy weather. So that was great.
It's very muggy in Manila. Japan was completely cold.
Complete opposite.
It's about 1 or 2 degrees.
No, it was around the 7-degree mark.
In the morning.
7 degrees Celsius. Degrees. No, it was 7 degrees and then it went up to about 12 or so. Mm-hmm. I think in the evenings it was a bit cold. Down to about the 3 degrees.
Maybe Mount Fuji was 1
I think Mount Fuji was cold.
It was 1 or 2
But it didn't feel very cold because the sun was
But we had a great time.
Quite
good. It was
good.
very relaxing.
Yeah.
Some time away, some time to reflect.
You always need a bit of time to reflect and time away to kind of improve on yourself and, to kind of get a break a bit. And, I think that's what I realized when I got back to work. I was like, I think I just needed a bit of a break. I didn't really, need to... I don't need to apply anywhere else or anything like that. Like, I just genuinely needed a break.
Change jobs or...
A lot of people have that in mind.
Quit volunteering.
quit this, quit that, but you just need a break.
Yeah. I think
sometimes you just need a break.
The end of the year gets to a point where you're really just scraping, for the last few weeks of the year.
That's right.
You're holding on, and then you're looking forward to that nice break. But it was great. It's a great time of reflection, planning for the Catholic Toolbox, planning for other things in life, and looking at where we've come and where we want to go towards the future.
That's right. Making those New Year's resolutions and trying to fulfill them.
Yeah, especially the goals there. So we're excited for 2024. We're taking up a notch for the Catholic Toolbox, and we're really going to bring you some exciting things this year and growth there. So
God
to
willing.
be announced later.
Yes.
So it's we're back 2024. It's exciting. So really this episode we thought we'd dedicate this. It'll be a shorter episode, but an episode to dedicate this to looking towards the future, but also reflecting on our travels. And some of the things that we reflected on was our faith during travel.
Yeah.
Now, my spiritual director, who I meet with every 2 weeks, said to me very, very importantly, a big shout out to him, when we travel, we need to prioritize our faith, where we're going to go to Mass, trying to make a visit, how you're going to pray your rosary, around everything else. So that needs to be prioritized first in the planning of things, to keep God at the center of everything. And so we want to dedicate this episode just a bit of a reflection, looking at travel and for people wanting to travel throughout this year. I mean, flights are getting cheaper.
Yeah, that's right.
Flights are getting cheaper.
Yeah.
So for people who want to travel, how do we keep faith at the center of our travel? How do we keep God at the center of everything that we do in our travels, especially in that holiday mode where we're not in our normal routine?
Yeah.
Maybe going to Mass, doing our prayers. We just want to see everything. We're running on adrenaline. How do we keep God at the center of everything?
Well, one of our...
Especially from our experience. That's what we're trying to relay this.
I do remember a few years ago getting inspiration from Pier Giorgio Frassati. And he was saying he made the effort every day to go to Mass, and nothing was ever more important than the Mass. And the thing is, I'm not as perfect as him. I went to Mass probably on a Sunday, on Sundays, and that was... And in Manila, a few more times during the weekday.
Yeah, it's very easy.
It's a bit easier in Manila. In Japan, it was a bit tricky because you don't really see churches in every corner.
Yeah, and there's not as many churches, and they're not as open, and faith is almost essentially extinct.
Yeah.
Especially with young people in Tokyo City and other parts of Japan.
But when we went to Mass, I was so surprised that the church that we went to was quite full. And the church that we went to was in a suburb called Kanda, and when you look it up, it just says Catholic Church Kanda. You don't really know what to expect. And I think they thought I was Japanese because they gave me the Japanese leaflet, but they gave me the English one. And I was like, I don't know how to read this. I'm so sorry.
They assumed.
They did assume. I think they thought I was Japanese, but... I don't think my wardrobe looked like I was Japanese. I think I looked very Australian.
You look like a tourist.
Yeah.
An Aussie tourist.
Very Australian tourist. Excuse me, I brought something back with me. Not COVID, thank God. But
I think it came from Sydney.
A lingering cough.
Not from overseas.
Yeah. Because it started after we got back. That's
exactly,
true.
Yeah. It's just as muggy, but...
Yeah, but in Japan,
Kanda.
When we went to Mass, I was so shocked that there were so many women in mantillas. Do you remember that?
Exactly.
It was beautiful.
We thought we were only people and a few sort of older senior citizens and other people.
Yeah.
But we thought it'd see how many people.
We thought it'd be the typical thing, but there were so many young people. The choir was doing beautifully. They were singing really nicely. They were using the organ. The church was a very classical kind of style, Gothic style.
It wasn't neo-Gothic.
It wasn't
church.
like the cathedral, which I've seen pictures of, which is very modern.
Very modern.
Yeah.
In with the city, nothing
nothing like that. It was very traditional, traditionally designed, I saw a bit of Latin when we were outside, so I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So it was a fairly older church.
So I think it was a bit more of a, it was a bit older, but it was really beautiful vibe in there. It was so peaceful, you know, and
fair few tourists.
A lot of tourists there.
Fair few tourists there, but there were some families, some Japanese families who were there at Mass.
Yeah.
And middle-aged to older people attending Mass. But there were some families.
Yeah.
And
so, I mean...
There were people.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many parishes are like this.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's the one
I have been to other parishes.
That's the one we got to see while we were there.
I have been to other parishes in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And you have more middle-aged to older people. There aren't as many young people.
Yeah.
So... Even with this parish, from our observation, there aren't as many young people in parishes there. And looking at some of their statistics of practice of faith, it's quite dwindling. It's dwindling very much.
Yeah, it's a similar story to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, you know what? I have hope that Japan is, going to... Hopefully the faith improves over there and... it grows, and I don't know.
Maybe through the intercession of Our Lady of Akita.
Maybe. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
That could be the new patron.
That's right. Well,
yeah.
She is the patron.
Well, she is the patron.
I think.
Of Akita.
Yes, of Akita.
But we'll have to find out who's the patron of
Japan.
Of the entire Japanese. But
well, I remember Saint Maximilian Kolbe. He did some work over there, didn't he? And another one, Saint Francis Xavier, I think.
As well. Visited Japan. I think an important episode we could do later through the year is actually studying Our Lady of Akita and some of her revelations.
Yeah.
She appeared and you had the weeping statue in Akita.
Yeah.
And she mirrored the same message as Our Lady of Fatima.
Yes.
It's very, very important, I think, to hit Our Lady of Akita.
Yeah.
Who you were named after.
Yes. And I can tell the story.
You can tell the story
at a later time.
We will have an episode
maybe closer to her feast day.
We will have an episode this year about Our Lady of Akita from my wife Akita.
Yes.
Okay. Akita from Our Lady of Akita.
Okay. Yes. And I can. Yeah. We could do that.
You can explain the whole thing. I think.
Yes. Look at you, just doing your planning for the Catholic Toolbox mid-episode.
No, we actually discussed this. In Japan, we said it'd be great to do an episode studying Our Lady of Akita and you presenting Our Lady of Akita and drawing from some of her messages. We can draw practical tools out of there.
Yeah, sure.
From some of her messages. But let's speak about continuing through our journey of observing Japan.
Yeah.
And so Mass was accessible.
Yeah.
But it's not as accessible
as other cities.
You have to travel to churches.
You do. And we had to do...
Considering the size of the city.
It wasn't near a train station. It was close enough that it was like 10, 15-minute walk, but you still had to walk and trek it out because it was kind of in between stations.
Yeah.
But one thing I did bring with me a lot when we were traveling was my rosary. And this rosary has a Benedictine medal that has been exercised. So not blessed, exercised. So it has to be. It has to have a
Benedictine medal has
special
to be,
blessing, right?
Well, yeah, you don't have the graces of a Benedictine medal unless it's blessed, exercised with the prescribed rite.
Yeah,
it's very important for those listening. If you have a Benedictine medal or a miraculous medal, they need to be blessed according to the prescribed rite of those. Otherwise, you don't receive the graces unless it's blessed. So when you buy it from the shop, obviously, there's no blessing attached to it or exorcism. You need to take it to a priest, and he will access the actual exorcism of the Benedictine medal and exercise it for you.
Yeah.
It's not just a simple blessing.
No. It's actually a bit long, but
it's necessary to
you need
have
that.
the actual exorcism there. Yeah.
So I always carry that wherever we went. Well, I think I tried to as much as I could.
Well, I had mine as well.
Did you?
Yeah, in the form of a key.
Oh, I didn't know that.
My little key Benedictine medal.
Yeah. Was that on our set of keys?
No, it was in my bag.
It was in your
my
bag.
personal bag.
Yeah. Which was good because we needed it.
Yeah.
Because on New Year's Day, We were not in the city. We did our little day trip to Mount Fuji. You know, we thought it's a great day to see Mount Fuji, and it was kind of like the only day we had that we were able to see it. So that was a really great day trip.
Yeah, and it was quite clear as well.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was stunning. But on that day when we got home, I think everybody was asking, "Are we okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're fine. What happened?"
Never heard of it.
What happened?
It's a very normal thing.
We realized it. We didn't realize that there was an earthquake that happened.
7.2 magnitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
but it was off the west coast.
Yeah, but Tokyo was affected.
They did feel it, but it was quite normal to them when you speak to Japanese people. It's a normal thing there.
Yeah.
It's well engineered to sustain earthquakes even in the city, but this was just a remnant of the west coast.
Yeah. So this is the thing when you travel. A lot of the times you just see, what's been an amazing experience, but sometimes you don't see like what people are going through, like the bad days and the natural disasters or anything like that. But we were very fortunate that we didn't even experience it to an extent, that we didn't feel the earthquake or anything. We literally felt like we just we didn't even realize that happened. We were too busy taking pictures with Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
And we didn't feel anything like.
It was like a Mount Sinai for us.
Maybe,
Taking refuge at Mount Sinai.
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah.
And it was such a
God's mountain.
It was such a beautiful day. It was so sunny, but it didn't really feel very cold or anything. So that was amazing. And then the day after, we flew out of Japan, and typical. Oh, are we going to have enough time to board the plane? Like, I want to go to this shop. I want to check it out. I just need to buy. I just need to buy something really quickly.
Flying to Manila.
Yeah, before our flight, and then I think we reached our gate, and then we had about 10 minutes before we boarded. So that was really lucky, because I did kind of take a bit of time through checking in.
Yep.
I think just doing bag drops, so it took some of our time. Anyway, we just ran to our gate, and then we left Japan, and I thought, what a great trip, what a blessing, and I can't wait to come back. And then a couple of hours later, as we were landing in Manila, as you always do, you were reading the news. So you always like to read the news as we're landing.
Yeah.
That's just what you do. And then
I do a lot of reading on.
And then what did you read on that day, on January 2?
Well, that there was the collision at Haneda Airport, and we had just
we just left.
Yeah, so it happened 2 hours after we were in the air.
So I think
we came close. Yeah,
we were like
to being delayed, and
we could have been very delayed.
Yeah,
one, and then not being able to meet with EWTN, but maybe EWTN was part of God's plan for us, which is why we were able to leave Tokyo, unscathed. And again, that Benedictine medal, I really think
that it's the Benedictine medal. Yeah,
I think it's that, and our guardian angels are always just like, I think they just work double time.
Yeah,
They just know us. Like, they're always constantly like, okay, we got to shield these two, and I do feel that a lot of the times.
So I think that's the important part.
Even in every day.
That's the important part there, to take from this these little experiences. They may not be major experiences, but to take from them that, our guardian angels are working, and some of the sacramentals that we use, such as a Benedictine medal, we can attribute some of their protection, if not all their protection, to these things. So that's part of being centered on God through travel, through your trip, through not being in your ordinary schedule.
Yeah.
But when we arrive to Manila, it's much easier, faith-wise, culturally.
We were scheduled to go to the Mass the next day at 12 p.m. because we were meeting some people after Mass.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I remember at that Mass praying, thank you, Lord, that we're still alive.
That we're here.
And, yeah, exactly.
Here, ready to roll.
And that we got here safely, and everything's okay, and two crazy things that have happened, and we were untouched.
Exactly.
By the grace of God.
Yeah. And many people are planning to travel this year.
And a lot of people are planning to travel to Japan.
Exactly.
As well.
Exactly. Or wherever you're planning to travel, that's the whole point of this episode. To give you a reflection on the important things, which is to keep God at the center of your travels. It's a holiday from our ordinary circumstances, but not from
your
relationship
faith.
with God, not from keeping that centeredness on God through your trip. So let's go into 3 practical tools.
Yeah. So
how can people preparing for trips this year, as flights get cheaper, Japan's actually quite a popular destination.
Yeah.
We're not trying to sell you Japan, but
I don't want to sell anyone Japan. I don't want to go back to any lines over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what I always do, because when I plan a holiday, you know what I'm like. I plan a holiday.
Yeah.
Where's the closest church? Like I even Google that to where we're staying or whatever. So if we I do keep that in mind. Like, where's the closest church? And I remember looking a few up, and this was probably the closest one that we could get to with a decent accommodation. That was also close to the train station. Yeah. That was a good train line.
You can visit, go to mass as frequently when they're open.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I tried my best with Japan, but it was a bit tricky.
It's very difficult.
It's a little bit tricky there because the Catholic faith is not the main faith over there.
And there are, for the city, there should be a lot more churches.
Yeah.
But there's very few.
I mean, how many Catholic churches in Japan are there that you know of?
Maybe in the whole city, 6.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8, but for
and then how
Tokyo
many
City, that's actually
and then how
small.
many Hermes stores were there? There were 12 in Tokyo.
How many Gucci stores? And how many Starbucks were there?
Yeah, exactly. There's like 50.
50 Starbucks.
Right.
If that's what we analysed.
And there's
how many?
And there's there's like the Vatican of like Starbucks stores in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the roastery, like the big one.
Yeah. So for the amount of stores or brands
for the amount of people and tourists that there should be more churches.
There should be more churches, but clearly, the faith is not as strong there. But through these times,
how many designer cafes did we see when we were there? And there's still less churches than that.
Exactly. So that's the situation in Japan, but. Moving over to the Philippines is completely a different situation.
Over to the Philippines, where the churches, there's like as many churches as there are Jollibees. So
there's churches and shopping centres, there's churches.
Yeah.
So you could basically go shopping.
There's
a chapel there.
You can do your groceries and then you can go to Sunday Mass.
Exactly.
Like,
there's churches everywhere.
In the same location. You don't have
churches everywhere.
You don't have to re-park your car. You're paying
so
flat
it depends on the country that you're in. I think that's the first thing to scope.
But how many chapels did I take you to in the Philippines? Or how many churches?
Many. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. We couldn't count.
So the first thing, let's go into the 3 practical tools. What do people need to look out for?
So the first one...
To keep their faith
my first tip...
centered while they're traveling.
My first tip is always plan ahead. So look up where the churches are. Look up what time the masses are, so you can plan your itinerary ahead of time.
Should people look for certain churches?
They can.
Where they're staying in a city? Like, prefer a cathedral because there may be a bigger community there.
Yeah, you can.
That you can meet or mingle with.
Or for example, if you're like...
If there's a particular basilica,
a third-order Dominican and you want to go to a Dominican parish, you can look that up.
Yeah. Or if you attend the traditional Latin Mass, you might want to go there. Or if there's any Maronite churches or any other Eastern churches that you attend, try to center yourself around that one church. It's good, for us to go into each town and find where the Catholic church is.
Yeah. Well, in the Philippines, do you remember that first stop we had? And then right next door was this church I've been wanting to visit for many years.
Basilica.
And it was the Basilica of St. Therese.
Of St. Therese.
It was incredible.
Right next door.
Beautiful church.
Next door to us.
And when I was walking around the church, my goodness, it was massive. Bigger than like most churches in Australia. And this was next to the airport. mind you. Like, directly across was
the airport.
one of the terminals in Manila. And it was such a beautiful church. It was so quiet. Someone told me, thank you for wearing your veil. And I was like, I don't need to be thanked to wear a veil. I just do it for God,
Yeah.
But like,
you get to experience what the different community is like.
And then I thought it was really beautiful that they had this wall of little post-it notes, and people were writing answered prayers. That was I thought that was beautiful. Nice. Like, some people were writing, I passed the bar exam, I'm a lawyer now, or I'm now a doctor, or I got my visa so I can travel overseas. Yeah. So thank you for answering my prayers.
Yeah,
I thought that was stunning. That was like right by the altar where Santa Teresa's statue was. So little things.
So the
like
important thing in planning to stay somewhere where you can attend a regular parish or church.
Check out what time their daily mass is. That could really help with your planning your itinerary.
Mm-hmm.
So
making visits and attending mass.
Yeah.
While you're there. But not only that, you mentioned something very important. You also get to experience the culture of that particular local church. Like, we don't have this idea in Australia of answered prayers being stuck, in a certain area.
It's a bit. I mean, some people might think
that was unique.
That's very private.
That was actually unique.
Yeah, some people might think, oh, that's very private. I don't really want to tell people like what we have, but like, those are the little quirks that maybe you can pick up on from other countries.
Exactly, and so you learn to see your faith in a different dimension, because a different culture has different customs that they follow, little small traditions that they adapt to. So that's in finding a parish.
Yeah.
Localize yourself. Like in London, for example, I stayed in Bayswater the entire time I was there many years ago, and I planned ahead to attend Mass at the Brompton Oratory, which is a marvellous Baroque church with a dome run by the Oratorians, who celebrate both the Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo Mass in Latin, done ad orientem. And I really wanted to visit that church and go to Mass there each day, go to my Sunday Mass there. And I got to know some of the Oratorians. It's nice to get to know the community while you're there.
Absolutely.
Center yourself somewhere there. It's also part of the holiday experience to see what the church is like in another place, and try to go to one place.
I've done that with whenever I've travelled.
You stay in one place, get to know the community, visit other places.
Which is why in Manila we were able to get confessions, because I knew where to get them.
Exactly.
I knew where to get
at the shopping centre.
Yeah, at the mall.
They have confessions there.
Yeah.
But let's go into practical tool number 2.
Number 2.
What else do you have for us?
Well,
people travelling this year.
Honestly,
get cheaper.
Honestly, carry that Benedictine medal and your rosary.
Sacramentals.
Sacramentals. Bring your sacramentals with you.
Now, what is a sacramental? For those who don't know what a sacramental is, they are not sacraments, but they are sacramentals. So they are not sacraments, but being a sacramental means that they have a particular grace that they carry, and it really depends also on your personal faith. For example, the sacraments don't depend on your faith. For example, the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass or confession, whether or not the priest is holy personally or not, those sacraments happen. Baptism happens. But sacramentals such as holy water, a Benedictine medal, a miraculous medal, these are sacramentals which contain blessings, but a Benedictine medal won't be as effective if you don't have a personal faith.
Yes.
It depends on your personal faith to receive the graces of that sacramental. So bring holy water. So what sacramentals could somebody carry with them while they're traveling?
I mean, holy water.
That's a good idea.
Holy water's, but you just have to keep it under 100 mils and put it in.
Yes.
If you're going to bring it on the plane.
100 mils.
Yes.
Salt. Can we take salt?
Yeah, you can do salt.
So exercise salt. So you can go visit your local parish and ask your parish priest to exercise salt. So you can exercise salt. So, and there's a custom and tradition if you that many people adapt to, that if they go and visit somewhere, or they're staying somewhere for a period of time, such as a hotel, they will then sprinkle on the four corners or all the corners of the hotel room, exercise salt, some holy water, because to rid the demonic influences that may be there.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, what that place was used for.
Sure.
If there was any occult practices, so
that's true.
That's a wise thing. Wherever you
Yeah.
stay, whether it's in Australia, whether it's an Airbnb or overseas, bring some holy water, bring some exercise salt, and you mentioned a third one is a Benedictine medal. I think those
Correct.
are really three strong ones.
Yeah.
Little pouch of holy water, exercise salt, and a Benedictine medal.
Yeah.
So you carried the Benedictine medal. I carried one as well. I always take one. I don't think you knew I had mine. So we both had Benedictine medals.
No, we didn't know.
So Benedictine medal contains an exorcism. So wherever you take it, there's graces depending on living our faith. We can receive the graces from that, having that Benedictine medal there of protection in times of harm, ridding demonic influence. So while you're away, and this is something we should practice as well, even at home. This is something for us to practice at home. Using a holy water, ridding demonic influences. But it's only when we're travelling, we're staying in places that we don't know what took place there.
Well,
was there any demonic influence?
This is the thing.
Was there any occult practices?
If I moved somewhere new, like I knew I was going to live there for a while, like a minimum a few months, I would actually call a priest who does exorcisms and get him to do one, just in case.
Exactly.
Or get it like a really thorough blessing for the house. And Epiphany season happened while we were away. Excuse me. But Epiphany is usually when you bless your house for that year. Or you get the house blessing, right?
Yeah. With the chalk as well that goes on
with
the door.
chalk and the water. And Epiphany water.
So during using these are powerful sacramentals for people listening here today. We have a few episodes on sacramentals, on demonology, demonic influences, the occult, where we're trying to rid against or fight against that. So using, I think there are three powerful sacramentals to take with you, and they're reasonable to take.
Yeah.
They only fit in a small bag, but they can have great protection for you while you're overseas, while you're not in your ordinary circumstance of everyday life. So let's go into the third practical tool.
Third practical
Third
tool,
and last.
I think, would be to observe and absorb the culture that you're in. So we had a few joyful festivals that were taking place in Manila while we were away. So do you remember that feast day that we went to? Like, they go hard out on their feast days.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you went to Cebu a few years ago and they did Pit Señor.
Yeah, which is the feast of the child Jesus.
Yeah, when we were there on my grandmother's birthday, there's the feast of Nazareno.
Yeah.
Massive,
the Black Nazarene.
massive feast day in the Philippines, and like there was like no signal for like the whole day because like it's hardcore. They go hard out, and there's a massive procession from one church to another of like this massive statue. And, people are praying and they're also trying to venerate the statue, which can get a bit crazy. And then
there's many people there.
Yes, there's a lot of people.
So crowd control is a very challenging aspect of that day.
Yes. And just before we left the Philippines, we went to the feast of Santo Niño de Pandacan. And do you remember that day? It was like a whole day thing. We went to church at like 7:15 a.m. I think, just so that we could enjoy the fiesta as well. And in the fiesta, like, we made a visit to the local church, which was actually blown up a few years ago. Or no, it wasn't blown up. It was on fire.
I think it caught fire.
It caught fire. Sorry.
Yeah.
It caught fire. And what like fascinated me was on that day, like, because it was the feast day, it was the Sunday. People were going to mass as usual, but there was still so many people that it was so full all the way to the outside. And they're going to mass in this church, like where their site used to be, but it's like they're still fixing it at the same time. So when I was walking up there, there's like a lot of stones and rubble, and then people are still going to mass as if it's like the usual thing. Like, and then you just stand outside, and a lot of them bring their little Santo Nino statues.
Everyone brings their own individual little statue.
Yeah, and then they display that in their home, so it gets blessed on that day. And then in the evening, they do the procession of the statue of Santo Nino de Pandacan. So there's massive kind of gatherings everywhere. Like, we were there from like 9 a.m. till about 8 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m.
And then the party was still happening. You know, there's a lot of bands and they're playing music. And I'm not talking about like a rock band. I'm talking about like a full-on, what do you call those bands? Marching band.
Yeah, so it was a marching band procession.
And it wasn't one marching band. There was about 7 marching bands.
Yeah.
So it was a lot, and they were all in costume, and they were all doing, like, they were doing performances throughout the day. It was actually incredible. So it's great when you can partake in the culture of wherever you're traveling. So yeah, I think that's my third tip.
Participate in the culture. I have one practical tool of mine, reflecting on it, is to see God in the different aspects. I mean, a lot of this is around the culture, church, the parish, but in between and during the sightseeing of where you're going for your holiday, such as Mount Fuji for us, such as some of the natural, Tagaitai mountain, the day out that we went on, and for many other people, the different sights that they would see, is to see God in the midst of these circumstances. Where is God? To allow yourself to be in the presence of God just throughout the day, even in a busy city.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Even for a few moments, to always recall to mind the presence of God in the midst of that moment. Whether you're shopping in a busy Uniqlo in Tokyo City, God is there. Yeah, you're at the base of Mount Fuji, God is there. He created this. And to make an aspiration to yourself. I think an aspiration is important. Such as something biblical. Like when I was at Mount Fuji, I was thinking of Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
Try to sanctify and center your experience on our Lord throughout the day. Little bits and pieces. By making an aspiration.
Yeah.
A small prayer or something you say to God during that day, and see God in the midst of your travels and the people you meet, just to keep that contact through the day, not just at church. So, and it doesn't have to be too much. It could be maybe twice a day or 3 times a day, something short that you might say, or a short reflection you might have while looking at a mountain or a tourist attraction there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very, very enjoyable.
Absolutely.
What's really, really interesting is how close Lent is. I think that wraps up the 3 practical tools to start with. So for those planning travel, if you're planning to travel this year, take heed of these 3 practical tools, and you'll feel very centered still. There won't be a shift in your spiritual life or a disruption. But rather it will be enhanced by new experiences.
You do your best, you know. We're not perfect, so sometimes we can't make that daily visit, but we try to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's not your daily routine, but to still center things on God, even though you still maybe can't get to Mass a lot of the time, or can't make those prayers, you still find other ways to center on God. But getting back to what I was saying is, it seems like Lent is creeping up on us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're now
the year's begun, and it's already Septuagesima last Sunday.
Exactly. We're still in January. One more day.
Septuagesima is, if you break it down, sept, which is 70.
And this is in the traditional Latin Mass calendar. For those.
Yeah, so 70 days before Easter already. So we're already starting to count down. So it's not exactly Lent yet, because Ash Wednesday hasn't kicked in.
But it's a preparation.
But it's pre-Lent. I described it as pre-Lent.
But many Maronite or Eastern Catholics listening to this have this concept
have
of
already
a pre-Lent,
begun. Yes.
or a preparation towards Lent.
Yes.
That's not found in the new Roman Rite calendar. no preparation towards
Yes.
Lent. So in the traditional Roman calendar, we're in Septuagesima Sunday.
Yes.
We've passed it, so in Septuagesima. What does that actually mean for our listeners that we're preparing?
It means
this moment?
Septuagesima just means 70 days before Easter.
Exactly.
Which and like the next week is Sexagesima, so 60 days before Easter.
Exactly.
And if that doesn't math, it does, because we don't count the Sundays.
Exactly. And we're going to have some great episodes coming up to discuss different aspects of Lent with Father John Flater and other guests throughout Lent. So I'm very excited about our Lent program, because we're going straight into Lent very, very soon. So the show is going to turn very Lenten. So I'm very excited about this year and starting off in Lent and all the other aspects. So, but yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
for coming
you.
on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're absolutely welcome.
And don't forget that, well, if you follow Ash Wednesday, Lent is on Valentine's Day. So
yes, but for Maronites, they can
it's
celebrate
Monday.
both more easily.
Yeah, that's
for
right.
Ash Monday, and then you can still go out for
Hopefully,
Valentine's Day.
Yes, so start thinking of your penance now. Start thinking of what you should detach yourself from. And I think that was the advice that we got from a homily last Sunday. So
I think so.
just passing it on.
So, thank you for tuning into the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts at The Catholic Toolbox on all podcast platforms. Don't forget to visit the website and subscribe to thecatholictoolboxshow.com. That is thecatholictoolboxshow.com. Thank you for tuning into the show. I'm your host and founder, George Manassa. Until next week, God bless, take care, and take action. In this era of grave spiritual crisis, it is not enough to simply know about your Catholic faith. That is why we need a Catholic toolbox to equip us with the practical skills necessary to live our Catholic faith to reach our ultimate goal, which is heaven for all eternity. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for the Catholic Toolbox as we hand you the tools to go forth, live the faith, and change our modern world today. Live on the Voice of Charity.